Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining this presentation and taking time out of your busy day. I would like to introduce myself. I am Rima Shah. I am a dyslexia therapist working with students with special needs for over 15 years. I have specialized in teaching English and math and trained in the Orton-Gillingham approach, amongst others. Currently, I'm the literacy and numeracy strategist for the early years at the Bombay International School in Mumbai. We have a mix of teachers and special educators from around the world. And I'm really happy to bring back this webinar where last time we had a host of participants from across the country. So a very warm welcome to all of you. Yeah. So before we start with the actual content, I would like to give you a brief overview of the areas that we'll be covering. What is reading fluency? Why is reading fluency important? And strategies to improve reading fluency. A request to everyone, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. We will be keeping a record and we'll address it after the presentation. And yes, please keep yourselves muted. Thank you. So I would like to start with a fact. Humans have been reading and writing for only about 5,000 years, which is very short for any major revolutionary changes. So reading depends on circuits that were originally evolved for vision and speech. So that comes very naturally to us, but reading doesn't. So I had a question. I'll be sharing a few scenarios, which if you have experienced or can relate to, please react by putting a thumbs up. You hear your students reading word by word, and you know that reading should not be so laborious for them. Thank you. It's difficult for you to watch as your students become increasingly frustrated and discouraged with reading. Okay, you know that it's possible to improve your students' reading skills and boost their self-confidence. And you will do whatever it takes to place your students on the success path to improved comprehension. Well, with all your responses, it's very clear why we're all here. We need to understand the process of reading and work efficiently towards fluency with a structured and explicit approach. So reading is the foundation of learning. It's used in nearly every aspect of life. And all literacy skills require reading. Learning to read is the acquisition and practice of skills necessary to understand the meaning behind the printed words. For a skilled reader, the act of reading feels simple, effortless, and automatic. However, the process of learning to read is complex, and it has to start from a very early age. As one of the 4 core language skills, that is listening, speaking, reading, and writing, reading is vital to gaining a command on the written language. So let's cover a few basics on the essential components of reading. Phonemic awareness. This is the ability to manipulate and identify individual sounds in spoken words. Phonics is the method of teaching students to read with fluency and the sound symbol association, followed by all the spelling rules that go with it. Fluency, which of course we're going to be discussing in greater detail. Vocabulary. Learners must have access to the meaning of the words and how to discover the meaning of the words. Now, all this leads to comprehension. So comprehension skill is to process the text and understand the meaning. Vocabulary and comprehensions are interrelated and the ultimate goal. So what is reading fluency? If you could type in the chat box, which are the important aspects of reading fluency according to you? Yes, reading at a natural pace, very true. Clarity in speech, yes, definitely. Reading smoothly and understand, yes. Reading fluency means where one can read at their own pace, but with no problem or help needed. Agree, yes, very much. Thank you so much for sharing this. So, a good way of summarizing all these would be through the 4 pillars: accuracy, rate, prosody, and automaticity. Let's dive right in. So, accuracy refers to reading words without mistakes. The horse got cold. The horse got a cold. We miss one word and the whole meaning changes. Accuracy improves when students have decoding strategies in place. And this is where a structured process of teaching is highly beneficial. Teaching them sound symbol association, reading from left to right, just looking at 2 letters and guessing the word. I mean, we have to get them beyond that. The rate of accuracy recognized as appropriate for instruction is 90 to 94%. And to many teachers, 90% may seem very high, but formal research supports this criterion for success. So if a student is making more than 16 errors in 150 words, he has to put in so much effort into figuring out individual words that there is very little energy left to think about the meaning of the text. This is the frustrational level. The instruction level that we are looking for is 90 to 94%, which means 1 in 10 words are difficult for a reader. Here, the student needs to work on the text, but not so much that all his efforts are concentrated wholly on word solving. Independent level is 95% plus, where reading is mostly accurate. So what we don't take so seriously is actually very, very important. And I would like to add here, we all should be teaching phonics, but the goal of phonics instruction is that we don't have to use it. If you need to use it, we are in trouble. Moving on to rate. So we have to see that the average words per minute, and on an average calculated as the age multiplied by 10. So a grade 1 student may have 50 to 70 words per minute, which is great. In grade 2, they may have 70 to 100 words per minute. Grade 3 is 100 to 130 words per minute, going up to a maximum of 150 to 160 words per minute. The rate improves with practice, and moving forward, we will discuss this in detail. Moving on to prosody. So young readers with good prosody, which is expression, use the voice pitch, timing, and stress on certain words, syllables, and punctuations to convey the meaning beyond the plain words alone. Let's see this example. I want a red dress. Now, by laying stress on the different words, meaning changes a little bit. I want a red dress. Clearly, I am really important. I want a red dress. I really, really want it. I want a red dress, means not blue, not green, but a red one. And I want a red dress, like I really want a dress and nothing else. So prosody gives language its rhythm and flow. And disfluent readers typically use less expression, they read word by word instead of phrases or chunks, and they fail to use the punctuation correctly. So let's see this other example. I like eating, Elvis, and laughing aloud. If we ignore the punctuation, it becomes I like eating, Elvis, and laughing aloud. Again, the meaning changes. So skilled readers pick up on these features and respond to them when reading aloud. So they pause briefly at commas, slightly longer at full stops, and raise their pitch at question marks. We are actually using our voice to make meaning. We will do an activity later on how to teach this. All right, so I have an activity for you right now. Let's read the color names written here. Now let's name the colors with which the color names have been written. Yes, so we read the words almost subconsciously, but it was evident how we all put in so much more effort while naming the colors that the word was written with. This brings us to our last pillar, automaticity. Automaticity involves fast, effortless word recognition resulting from extensive reading practice. It's a crucial piece for helping beginning and struggling readers develop fluency and comprehension, and yet it's often overlooked. Quick, effortless word recognition. This is the key. Students need to automatically recognize and decode the words without conscious effort. Only then, I repeat, only then can they work on comprehension. Often, struggling readers will know the skills in isolation and they'll be able to accurately decode the words. But if that process does not become automatic, they will constantly be focused on decoding, not the meaning. So, how does automaticity develop? It's only practice. Practice, practice, and practice. It's just like driving a car or riding a bike. Students must read words over and over again to build automaticity for reading. Repeated reading of word lists, sentences, and short passages will help build this skill. The more they read, the better they will get, and then it will enhance their comprehension. So, teaching fluency typically requires maybe 15 to 20 minutes a day. To sum it up, reading fluency is the ability to read a text at an appropriate rate, effortlessly, with good, meaningful expression. And I would like to add, with little attention to the mechanics of reading. And reading fluency is the key measure for overall reading ability. Fluency is the ability to read like you speak, as we had discussed earlier. To illustrate how fluency works, think of a child learning to play the piano. At first, all effort is put in finding the notes and playing them in the right sequence. The playing may be accurate, but since the child is playing one or two notes at a time, there may not be a noticeable tune, and there's certainly no interpretation of the music. With practice, putting the notes together becomes more and more automatic. It becomes fluent. With this automaticity comes the child's ability to interpret the music. The same applies to reading. Once a student gets beyond word by word reading, he can begin to relate to, interpret, and use the text. So, why is reading fluency important? Reading fluency is followed by vocabulary and comprehension. which reinforces the understanding that it is the bridge between word recognition and comprehension. By grades 3 to 4, the focus shifts from learning to read to reading to learn, and this is a big change. Students have to build their vocabulary and knowledge through reading. If reading is less effortful, there is more mental resources available for comprehension, analysis, and critical thinking. When reading fluency is poor, comprehension often suffers. Decoding mistakes can change meaning. We just saw that. And a slow labored pace can make it more difficult to maintain consistency. Even when comprehension is good, a slower reading pace may cause fatigue or make it difficult to keep up with the volume of assigned work. And that's a big reason why we identify many more children in grades 3, 4, and 5 having learning difficulties. Now, I have an equation here. Reading comprehension is equal to decoding multiplied by fluency. Just like in a mathematical equation, if the magnitudes of either decoding or fluency is low, the overall reading comprehension reduces. And if it is zero, there is no comprehension. This is how important fluency is. It is now receiving much deserved attention, and a very strong research indicates that while fluency in and of itself is not sufficient to ensure high levels of reading achievement, fluency is absolutely necessary for that achievement. I would like to add that there are many students who sound like good readers but may have difficulty understanding what they have read. So we need to also keep a check on that. So we're moving on to students who struggle with fluency. Do you know a reader who struggles with fluency? He reads every word like this. Or maybe you know a reader who trips over words too. Her reading is awkward and painful. I know a reader who reads automatically and without stumbling. He reads every word like this without a breath. I have to remind him to read with expression and pay attention to punctuation. Why does reading fluency matter? Because it is not just about reading fast, it's comprehension. Fluent readers can recognize words and comprehend at the same time. In contrast, less fluent readers must focus their attention primarily on decoding individual words, which leaves little attention for making connections amongst the ideas in the text and also between the text and the background knowledge. So why do some children struggle with reading fluency? To achieve automaticity in word recognition, developing readers need 4 to 15 exposures to a word, and poor readers need 40 plus exposures to achieve the same recognition. Dedicated fluency instruction is rarely found in classrooms or even in intervention programs. So children with poor fluency often do not recognize and acquire linguistic patterns with the same ease as others. This is particularly true with students with language-based learning disabilities such as dyslexia. So phonological awareness and word retrieval speed are strong predictors of reading fluency. Struggling readers will not catch up without reading intervention, and the gap widens as the years progress. Children who are behind in reading may suffer reduced self-esteem and are at a risk for becoming discouraged learners who underachieve academically. This may become a huge concern. And concerns about reading fluency should be addressed and treated as early as possible. It really takes a toll on them. Many children with reading problems are bright and able to mask the reading weakness by using contextual meaning to guess the unknown word. Reading fluency problems may not be obvious till the second or third grade, and research shows that most children who are reading below grade level in the fourth grade continue to read below grade level in higher grades. So a lot of importance has to be given in the primary years. So how can you help your students become fluent? With repeated reading, and repeated reading leads to improving fluency, which leads to improved comprehension. This increases their reading level and increasing their reading-oriented self-confidence, thus expanding their understanding. This is the domino effect. And the domino effect states that when you make a change to one behavior, it will activate a chain reaction and cause a shift in related behaviors as well. The same applies here. Not to mention, if we fail at the first level, it all falls apart. So, fluency and reading comprehension. Your reading comprehension requires reading quickly, that is your fluency, keeping a track of words in the sentences, that's your working memory, vocabulary meaning, and text conventions, which is your semantics and grammar, and understanding what is read, that's your receptive language. This is the ultimate goal. So we will move on to some research-proven fluency strategies. Now, fluency is a skill that many students lack, which causes frustration. So explicitly teaching of reading strategies provides students with the tools they need to become aware of their reading, and it provides confidence in their ability to read and analyze text. So we start at the word level, move on to phrases, sentences, and then paragraphs. So struggling readers cannot just figure it out or find the answer to how it works. They have to be taught systematically, reading from left to right, no guessing, finger tracking, focus on punctuations. It's again all about practice. And I would like to mention that even beyond grade 3, practice for fluency should not stop. Students enjoy it when it is done with different passages, poems, etc. So now if these words have to be read and the student is reading it as k, a, t, m, o, p, it's difficult for them to blend the letters together. And here I would like to point out a shift in teaching the sounds here. When we teach k, f, l, the average child manages to put the sounds together, but a struggling reader gets stuck here. He is unable to remove the sound and read the word. So he is unable to achieve fluency right here at the word level. So when we teach sounds, we have to teach them the pure sound without the at the end. So M is M, S is S, T is T. So they start blending through the vowel and finish. As in lad, de, fox, pig, ha. So this mostly works with children with or without difficulties. Their paces may differ, but fluency can be achieved with regular practice. It may be slow initially, but they will achieve fluency at the end. Then we move on to phrases. In a hut, on the cot. Do notice how we repeated the words as we move on from the word level to the phrases and then to the sentences. A lad went to the hut. The fox is in the den. Also, another strategy that works is to circle the sight words. Now, some children may see the word the and try to break it up. We don't want to confuse them. So we have to distinguish clearly with words that we want them to break up or read them as a whole word. I mean, they are unaware of the sight words, so we need to differentiate it for them. And reading is a separate topic which we need to take up separately. So once reading is in place, we must focus on teaching the importance of punctuations. We get them to realize how do we read when there's a full stop after the word or a comma, exclamation mark, or a question mark. So this is especially for struggling readers who find it difficult to decode, but we still want to work on their expression. So we just write the alphabet and have different punctuation marks in between. So I'll do this for you. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So this is extremely useful when students do not have to decode. They know the letters, so they at least follow the punctuations. Once they're comfortable with reading words, we substitute the letters with words, and you will almost see an immediate change in their effort towards fluency. And I have worked with my students even in the 7th grade who first thought that, oh, this is so weird. But once they started doing it, it actually became a challenge. And by the end of the class, we saw a significant change. It really works. So we'll move on to discussing the flow and how it's a cycle of modeling, practicing, and monitoring. So research demonstrates that various forms of modeling can improve reading fluency. By listening to good models of fluent reading, students learn how a reader's voice can help written text make sense. Read aloud daily to your students for them to understand how a fluent reader sounds during reading. Then there needs to be practice. Practicing is the most powerful way to improve reading fluency. This involves simply reading the same material over and over again until accuracy and expression is achieved. And then monitoring. Progress monitoring is what motivates students to practice reading the same story until they achieve mastery. So these are a few different ways of modeled reading where we read to our students, and so let's dive into echo reading. With echo reading, you read a poem or a book to your students, and then you repeat the reading. During the second reading, you read a line or a phrase one at a time, and your students echo it. You want them to imitate your pace and expression. Now, this can also be done through the week. So on the first day, you just have echo reading, and maybe you do a little grammar with it, pick out the nouns and verbs. On the second day, you will do choral reading. So following the echo read, you and your students work together, reading in a choral read as they follow and keep up with your pace. You can stop at any time to ask questions, discuss vocabulary, and keep everyone on task. Again, we are practicing reading, but the goal is changing. On Wednesday, you may do close reading. Now, close reading is another whole class fluency exercise, and it's similar to choral reading, except that you, as the teacher, do most of the oral reading while the students follow along silently. Every few sentences, you leave out a word for the students to chime in as a class. With close reading, students aren't doing a lot of oral reading, but it's still valuable because it gives them a model of fluent reading and they have to be attentive. Next day, you can move on to Reader's Theatre. It's a fantastic tool because it doesn't require any props or a stage. All the acting is done with the voice. You can create your own scripts using a familiar children's book. Just type up the lines for the narrator and some characters, and your students can take turns reading the lines from the script. So with different goals in mind, it actually becomes fun for the students, no matter which grade they are in. We also have paired reading, where two students are paired together. One is the more fluent reader and the second maybe a less fluent reader. So the less fluent reader has the advantage of listening to the more fluent reader, while the more fluent reader has the advantage of receiving practice and critically observing the text when his partner is reading. So it's a win-win for both. And working with individual students, we should have a lot of repeated reading to achieve success. Then let's discuss monitoring. So there are different ways of monitoring. One can be that you record the number of words that they're reading in a minute, or you can also have students read the passage maybe 5 to 7 times and then you record it again. You will see a difference. Here, you will count substitutions, mispronunciations, omissions, reversals. Hesitations for more than 3 seconds are counted as errors. Insertions. So all these have to be taken into account. Self-correction and repetition are not counted as errors. So this will yield the number of the correct word read. We can create a fluency development lesson and have this happening through the week. By the end of the week, you can also have them read to their family members or siblings, and it really becomes fun for them and they feel a sense of achievement there. Now, here is an example of a rubrics. So depending on your grade, you can set the guidelines, and there are plenty on the net. So depending on your grade, you can pick the right one. So put simply, it is a set of criteria for grading assignments, and it has multiple advantages. So a rubrics helps make feedback timely. It familiarizes the students with the highest level of achievement. And it encourages reflection. Sometimes you can have them reflect, like, was I able to read fluently or did I skip words? And rubrics also facilitates communication about the assessment. At its core, the use of rubrics can improve students' performance considerably. Here are a few links for reading fluency passages and assessment, where the words are numbered so we can keep a tab of how many words are read. So it is a must that we work on reading fluency and yes, have our kids succeed. So thank you. This was the end of my presentation, and please check out my YouTube channel where I have shared videos which will help you enhance your students' reading, spelling, grammar, and handwriting. The spelling videos are all based on the Orton-Gillingham approach. Do subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for more videos and more information on webinars. The next workshop is going to be in January on how to teach spelling. So where we'll be covering different types of syllables, spelling rules, and strategies on how to teach with a multisensory approach. So I will be sharing the details soon. So thank you so much for being here. And now the floor is open for questions. Okay, will we receive a recording of the webinar? Yes, I will be sharing a recording. Should we use the same text for practice or different text with the same words? If we read the same book over and over, won't that lead to memorization with respect to echo reading? Yes, in a way you're right that it can lead to memorization, but also what happens is initially it may lead to that, but once the students become fluent and they see themselves progress, they will want to move on to other passages also. They're not going to stick to the same book or same passage. So it's actually encouraging them to grow in this aspect. Can you please send the links for reading fluency in an email? Sure, I can definitely do that. So, yeah, do we have any other questions? Most welcome. Oh, okay. So please explain the punctuations. All right. So when we tell our students that you need to stop at a full stop, pause a little bit at the comma, um, students may not, when this is, like I said, especially for struggling readers. So imagine they're struggling to decode the word. It's very difficult to tell them now also focus on the punctuation. So hence we replace the words with the letters. So instead of having, I mean, if I'm going to say the girl went on the mountain, and it may be a little tough for, a young child, I am just telling them to say A, B, like there's an exclamation mark after the B. So you show expression. Pause after a comma. So C, D, E, F, G. There's a full stop. So you stop. And that is how you'll get them to practice. Once they're fluent with the punctuation, you can replace the letters with words again. And then you say, now you have this little paragraph, maybe a 2 or 3 line paragraph, and you have them read it. Now they will focus a lot more on the punctuation as compared to before. And of course, with more practice, because expression is really important to understand the meaning. If students are just reading, I mean, there are many students who just read, they don't stop at a full stop, they don't stop at a question mark, and there is actually no meaning. They're unable to make meaning of the passage. So punctuations are really important, and we need to teach that explicitly. Yes, thank you. Also, choral close model reading. So choral reading is when you're reading as a class. So everyone is reading together, and close is, it's like fill in the blanks. So if I'm reading it, I will just stop, and the whole class has to start where I've stopped. So this also is, it's important to see if they're all paying attention or not. And when they're all reading together, again, it's a different way of learning. So it makes it more fun. If we did, read this every day, it just becomes very monotonous, very boring. So yes, and that's how, I mean, these different types of reading helps the fluency. Any book or program you suggest for decoding the sound of letter phonics? I am unable to think of a book right away, but I can send it via email. I mean, I have a book which teaches on how to read in a multisensory way. I will send it via email. I'm sorry, I don't have it right now with me. But yes, I mean, and like I said, please check out my YouTube channel. I mean, a lot of rules, like how to teach, when to use C and K, C, K, and CK. It is so confusing for a child, especially when it comes to spelling, or how to teach reading. You blend through the vowel. Like students may be able to say a, but it's very difficult for them to blend it. So we teach them how to blend through the vowel. So ka, la, ma, fa. With that practice, then you do blend through the vowel and finish. So ka, la. So as you keep practicing more and more, the fluency improves. And then, of course, sight words is a whole separate issue. You need to just learn. I mean, they're actually called heart words now because you need to learn them by heart. And, circling the sight word really helps, because there are kids who try to break up, like DOES. They will, if they try to break it up, then they're never going to read fluently. So all these strategies are there on my channel, and you can have a look. In an online setup, how do we use these methods of reading? Because reading in a group becomes quite difficult online. Yes, I totally agree. But if you have smaller groups, it can be done in groups of 10 or 20, or you can pick roll number 1 to 5 will read. And we'll have to adapt to the circumstances that we are in. So maybe you can have 5 kids reading at a time, or if you have a group of 10, you have them reading all together. It will be fun. And it's actually really challenging when you see another group reading well. So that really you want to up your level. So this challenge helps everyone. So yes, and any other questions? Do you have any strategies specifically for students whose second language is English? Um, I think here it's only exposure, reading to them, talking to them in English. And this is a huge thing right now because we are not in physical school and they don't hear English all the time. In school, at least the 5 hours that they are there, they would be listening to everyone talking in English. But it's only through books, reading, that and explicit teaching. They have to be taught everything in a structured manner. Then it becomes easy for them. If we cannot assume anything. If we say, oh, this is so easy, I mean, like sight words, something as simple as the, it is so easy, but we cannot assume it. So teaching in a structured manner helps these children. Most welcome. So yes.